Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Windshield Time, the podcast where we help you use your windshield time to turn learning into earning. Windshield Time is, of course, brought to you by Service Excellence. Today on the podcast, Chris Elmore, the host, am joined by Jesse Olson, owner of the Happy Outlet in Carson City, Nevada, not Nevada, and his number one right-hand man, Mr. David Grennel, who is an electrician and a manager for Jesse. I'll let him tell you a little more about him. But today on the podcast, we're going to keep unpacking the three non-technical roles of a technician. Stay tuned. So, not only do we have a guest co-host in Jesse, but now we have...
Just got invited back.
I'm going to call you, David, I'm going to call you the first official special guest on Windshield Time.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, hey, guys.
Are you going to be able to live up to that, all that pressure?
Man, I don't know.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure you'll do fine.
You got a better introduction than I did.
Yeah.
You got a good introduction, Jesse.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
No, I got a good introduction, but of course we've known each other for so long that, there's got to be some, you got to give me some flack too. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you still talking?
See? Exactly.
No. I value you, Jesse, and honor you. You know that. I make fun because I love. So, let's talk a little bit about David. Now, I've known David, well, really since day one of working with you. When David, and this is going to sound terrible, but not just an electrician, but when David was an electrician, and that was his everyday job for you, right? So, September of 2019.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, September 2019 is when we started with Service Excellence. And I do believe, this is your eighth year. So he was still fairly new.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had been working for me maybe a year and a half at the most.
Yeah. So now today, David, what is your role at the Happy Outlet today after 8.5 years?
The official title is Senior Electrical Safety Advisor.
Gotcha. But you're kind of in a management role and a leadership role. You're kind of the role model thing, and you're a real champion for what the technician should be doing on a daily basis at the Happy Outlet.
100% for sure. I like to think that I'm spreading confidence, reassurance, being here. A coach or a boss doesn't get to call in sick. We have to show up with a good attitude no matter what. And that's very much part of the gig now.
I like it. And
if we're talking about soft skills and the client delighter, this is what David has excelled at. He does the practice.
Yeah.
He just like his training, his weight, his gym and everything. I mean, he does the practice. He's a very disciplined person.
Yeah.
And that's why he does well in the role that he's in now.
Gotcha. Would you see a squirrel, David?
No, I saw someone walking the dog on our lawn. So
yeah, David is even the sentry for the Happy Outlet. So David, your background, you served in the Army. Thank you for your service. I know that you're proud of that. And you also have come a long way since I've known you, both mentally, physically, and those kind of things. And one thing that has always struck me about, technicians is that a lot of times technicians, they work so much, they neglect their personal, mental, and physical health, right? Because we're always working. And one thing about you that I've always appreciated. Well, number one thing about David I've always appreciated, and I think I can say this. Alex, tell me, can I say bullshit? David doesn't accept bullshit. That's the first thing. I'm going to say it that way because I was their first, with Service Excellence, I was their first technician, trainer, business coach, and now they're working with other great members of our team. But anytime I would say something as a trainer that David thought, no, he would tell me. He would make sure that I knew. And I really appreciated that about David because he always kept me on my toes and he always gave me a perspective sometimes maybe I wasn't seeing. And so I always appreciate that about David. But the other thing about David is that your physical journey, as Jesse was referring to, your weight training, things like that. And I know that technicians typically don't take care of themselves because they're so busy taking care of customers or taking care of their families or whatever it may be. And so I want you to talk a little bit about the transformation, and you don't have to give details, but the transformation and how it's affected you mentally and physically, this physical transformation, this mental transformation. How has it affected you, first in the field, obviously, but then just in general? Because I think it's important for people to hear that.
Yeah. Well, it started not too long. I guess right before we started working with you, Chris, I got skin cancer on my head or something like that.
And for those of you that are not watching the video, David has a magnificently shiny bald head.
So I got diagnosed. I was called out to a job at a skin cancer place, and one of the nurses, I was putting in a receptacle. I thought she was checking my fat butt out, but no, she was looking at the cancer on my head. And she came and touched me on the back and said, "Hey man, we need to make an appointment." So went and made an appointment, and that was the beginning of it. I didn't want to be the guy that smoked cigarettes with cancer. So I decided to stop smoking cigarettes. And then about a year after that, started thinking about movement in my life, what I was going to do, where I was going to go, how is all this affecting everything. And I guess the circuitry of your life, the circle of your life. I was starting to press into leadership mentality. All right. Never thought I would really need to do that or want to do that, but I felt the urge to do that. So there's a guy, Alex Hermosi, that I was introduced to.
Yeah, Todd Lyles is a big fan of Alex Hermosi.
Okay, all right. So he buys and sells jams and all that stuff, and a big promoter on physical representation, having respect when you walk into the door or something, right? Having that kind of aura about you, and that thought about my position here and how that could play a role, and took some steps to get healthy. I was 260 pounds with
how tall are you?
30. I'm 5'8".
Okay.
On a good day, I'll be honest with you guys. 5'8" on a good day. And then I got down to 189, and now I'm just building back up. I've in the past, I guess 8 or 9 months, a year, I put on 30 pounds of muscle. So, that helps with your mental, man. I tell you what, Chris, I can get back to a couple of years ago when I was going through a slump, and you had brought up letting things in my life dictate the way that I was representing myself at work. And that played a huge role on thought process to stay diligent and disciplined in this journey.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What came first, the fitness or your, because like I said, you've always been a very disciplined person to me. I mean, so much that you've taught me how to be more disciplined, like sticking to things, at our values and stuff at work. So what came first, your discipline in fitness or discipline at work?
Well, the discipline came first. I made a lot of bad decisions in my life, and that thought, the action to stay disciplined is non-negotiable for me because of the decisions I've made prior, right? So the discipline came first.
But in the gym or at work?
No,
Like, what were you disciplined at first?
oh, I would say I was more. I became disciplined at work, but the fitness journey has allowed me to be more disciplined. So disciplined at work came first.
Okay.
You know, it was a baby step discipline.
Mhm.
It was this size discipline. You know, now it's this size discipline.
So learning to be more disciplined and practice and all that
Practice
stuff
discipline,
at
yeah.
work helped you believe in yourself that you could start doing that with your fitness.
Yeah.
And then now you're fit in your mind and your body. You're feeling better about yourself. You
Yeah.
can bring that back to work with a better attitude.
For sure. Yep.
So let's talk about real practical benefits here to that.
Okay.
So you've been in crawl spaces, attics, basements, hot, cold, even as bad as it is for electrician, damp,
Yeah.
right? You've been in all those
Yeah.
places. And as someone who was doing that work, 260 some pounds, smoking, probably not eating right at all, how is it different when you do that? And I know you don't do that stuff as much these days, but when you have to do those things, what's the difference for you? In just real practical physical terms, what's the difference for you?
Yeah, the difference is movement. It's all in movement, right? We had a job a couple months ago where I had to get up there and help a guy pull 2-3 through an attic all the way across the house, and you know, I was good. I'm 50 years old, dude, and to be able to do it like I'm 25 again means everything, you know. So
That's
that's
awesome.
what it's like. Yeah,
You were just on a job yesterday. How did that go?
yeah, it was all right. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's good, man.
Yesterday, I want to brag. I know I do want to brag. I did move a 14 kW generator with a digging bar and one piece of 2-inch IMC all by myself.
And the electricians that listen to this know what that is. I'm just assuming it's a big stick and a round piece of pipe.
Yeah, I needed help. I needed help getting it on the pad.
Moving it like the Egyptians.
Yeah. The helper helped. Our guy helped us get it on the. I had to lift it up, and he pushed it onto the pad. You know, so. But yeah, I was pretty proud of myself about that one.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm proud of you, man. I really am, because I've seen your journey, and if I had any part in it, I'm not claiming it, but if you think so, I'm honored to have maybe inspired or had a little bit, but I can say I've taken things from you too over the years, just as I've worked with you in my approach to technicians, and you're being open to, you know, the just different perspectives and understanding it can be respectful and well-meaning, and you embody that. You may disagree, but you're never trying to demean or belittle anybody or whatever. You're really open-minded, and you've changed a lot both ways, and just I'm proud of you for that. Thank you. And I have to say, Alex, do you agree with me on this? You fill out that Happy Outlet shirt way better than Jesse does. What do you say, Alex? Okay, sorry. From say the bottom, the sternum upward, you fill it out better than Jesse does. Well, that's cool, David. Thank you for sharing that, and I hope you guys out there listening can take a little bit of inspiration from David. And I hope you get a chance to watch the video so you can see these guys talking. But
there was one thing too. You started to say when you were saying that you were proud of him, and that is, you know, something that David and I have talked a lot about. Like when he started here, you're saying, you know, that he would call you out on your BS and you know, like really get to it, but it was always in a respectful way or coming from you know, place, a good place,
learning
right?
heart.
A learning
Just wanted
place.
to
Really,
learn.
really
Yeah.
wanted to learn.
Yeah.
But what I will say about that is that since you've been here to your role now, you wouldn't be the role you in if you hadn't become a better communicator.
Yeah.
Like
100% agree, man.
You have learned how to better ask your questions, communicate with people, and not be so blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, let's get into the topic for today, which is we're still unpacking the 3 non-technical roles of a technician. And the first one is the client delighter. And I think, Jesse, I think we talked last podcast, we ended it with, it's kind of like when you think about these 3 roles, you think about, I mentioned the role, just an actor. But you can put any person in the arts or a craft in that spot that you could be the best woodworker, cabinet builder in the world, right? But if your focus is only on your craft and it's not on the experience people have with your craft, if it's not on communicating about your craft, and if it's not on making a living from your craft or, producing revenue from your craft in a responsible, good stewardship, profitable way, then you can't make a good living doing it, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a hobby otherwise.
And we kind of left off on, I was saying something about the Back to the Future and Eric Stoltz, but my point, I guess, something that I feel like needs to get said, because I think people are out there thinking this right now, is like, okay, but that's in the service industry. Like if I want to do industrial or commercial, I get this all the time. Well, then I don't have to deal with clients, and then I don't have to do all this stuff. I don't have to be that delighter and that problem solver, or that revenue producer. But I totally disagree. You're still. We said it before. You're still in a people industry. There are still people in that industry. You may not have the same kind of customer interaction, but I'm telling you, if you don't have these 3 things, you're a tool. You're going to go to and what I mean by that might sound offensive to some of you guys, but that is the way it is. You're going to go and you're going to be hired to run pipe or pull wire or rope a house.
Not to think, right?
Like these are the tools that turn you into, some sort of a leader, make you more valuable. Just like David's journey, going in the position he's at now. Like that wouldn't have happened. So don't think that this is just because we're in the service industry and we're dealing with customers. I think that's BS.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it doesn't matter what niche or what segment of the trade you're in. I think you have to do all of these things. And think of it this way too. We talk about client delighter, but you could put in people delighter, team member delighter, boss delighter, all that kind of stuff. You could put that anywhere. And it's really the experience that people have interacting with you is the thing we're talking about, right? Because just like I go back to that actor example, you could be the most fierce actor, method actor, like completely the best actor anybody's ever seen. But if you're hard to work with, you're not going to get hired because there's just too much drama. No pun intended. We're talking about actors and drama, but there's just going to be too much baggage that goes with it. And so it's going to be that he's a great technician, but he's a great electrician, but right?
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to say we have a lot of problem solvers. We're electricians, HVAC guys, tradesmen. We're problem solvers. So we have that in our belt. It's the client delighter and the revenue producer parts that I see make people uncomfortable. Like Jesse talks about guys coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to go back to doing commercial." It's because they don't want to do, or they don't know the benefit of, or they've never been introduced to
Yes.
the client delighter or the revenue producer in themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's good for, I don't want to get too off track, but I think it's good to also interject that, maybe this is getting a little deep, but I believe it. We were talking earlier on an earlier podcast about changing the trades and how we need to hold ourselves accountable, and we are the experts and the professionals.
Yes.
That's how you change the perception. It changes with us, or starts with us first. But you if you ignore these skills and you are just that tool, as I put it, what that leads is to a skipping around from job to job.
Absolutely, it does.
What's better.
Yeah.
And that's no kind of life, right? I mean, maybe you are better suited for commercial or industrial or whatever. There's a place for everybody, but without these skills, without this stuff, you are just going to be stuck.
Yeah.
And all it is going to be going from job to job. And I don't really want that for anybody.
No. But I think back to what David said, on the problem solver part of this, David, it's not just the technical piece. It's your ability to communicate your problem solve. It's your ability to communicate those things. And so that's more about communicating the work than it is doing the work. It's about communicating about problems, their resolution, and what you did to bring about that resolution. And I think going back to just something you said before was, my work speaks for itself. Well, it doesn't. And so that's what we're talking about with the problem solver role, because all the customer knows is you came here, now it's not doing the bad thing, or it's now doing the good thing, and it's fixed. So yes, from that standpoint, the problem was solved. But if we can't communicate what's wrong, what needs to be done, and what was done to fix it, you don't build enough value for the problem solve. And so your problem solving skills technically are minimized in the eyes of the customer. And what we want is that electrician who finished apprenticeship, has extensive on-the-job experience, and is great at what they do. We want them to be recognized for that. And the way a customer is going to recognize that is in the way that's communicated and the value that is built around those skills, not through fluff, but through good quality communication. So that's the problem solver role. Now, all of the roles we're talking about, we've discussed at length on this podcast under different topics, right? We talk about press play. We talk about handling objections, all that kind of stuff. That's part of problem solving too, is handling objections, because really repairing someone's or figuring out what's wrong with someone's electrical system is only part of it.
Half of it.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably only 25% of it. To be out in the field for as long as I was, it's about 25% of it.
Yeah.
Relating the issue and giving the solution is 75%.
Well,
of the service.
I think there's another piece of it, which is the problem solve is also handling objections and helping the customer figure out how to get it done.
Yeah.
Because once they know what it is, what needs to be done, what you're going to do to fix it, now you have to help them solve the problem of the affordability or the time or the hassle. You have to help them solve that problem.
You are really it's like it's holistic, right? We had a tech not too long ago that was just a few weeks ago on a job, and of course this isn't completely related, but the concept is, right? We were there and we got drywall that we need to cut, and we've got appliances that need to get moved, and then the hoses hooked back up, and so a little bit of plumbing, and so there's no leaks, and leveling it out. My point is you aren't just an electrician. You aren't there to just do that. You're there to, like you just said, to help them solve the affordability. Maybe it's financing, whatever else. Prioritize things if that's what the case is. There's so much more that you can help. You have the ability and are in the right position to help people.
So let's talk about client delighter. And well, the steps of press play are all about that. The in-home sales and service principles: prepare, relationship building, evaluate with questions, settle anxiety, system diagnosis, prescriptions, labor, added value, your future. All those are about delighting the client, but they're also all about problem solving, and they're also all about being a revenue producer. Okay, so we could say that that's how all this permeates, but we want to just going to isolate some things about each one. And I want to go back to our doctor example. Okay, and the one thing about being a client delighter, let's compare it to something we've all done. We've all gone to the doctor, right? And whether we go to a personal doctor who brings us into their actual office, which is very rare, most people tend to go to the kind of assembly line doctor situation now, which is you show up, you check in, you might pay money up front, then you go sit in a waiting room. They call you back after 10, 15 minutes. They do your vitals with the nurse. Doctor will be in soon. 15, 20 minutes later, the doctor comes in the little cold room where you're sitting on the table. They have 4 other rooms with patients in them. One they just left. You and a couple others that are still waiting. There's people in the waiting room. So they're just moving through patients as much as they can in a day. And that's not to say the doctors don't care and they don't want to spend as much time as they can with you, but most general practices like that are overloaded. They just are. And so what happens is the doctor has to focus more on being a technical problem solver than they have to do to be focused on the rest. Think of yourselves in a busy time, right? I remember me in the wintertime as a service technician at the company I worked for, we did oil heating. And when an oil truck fills a tank while the burner's running, it sludges up everything, and you're going to be at that house within the next 4 or 5 hours doing a nozzle filter strainer. So there were times where I would work, 16, 18-hour days chasing an oil truck. Well, in those time frames, what you're worried about is, do I have enough material in the truck to get through this? When am I going to be able to go to the supply house, or when are they going to bring me something? You're focused on, am I going to get home and see my wife and kids before tomorrow? You're like, when am I going to eat? And you're eating on the run. You're doing all these things. You are focused on getting the calls knocked out, okay? And so I think if you think about a doctor, that happens.
Sure.
Okay. And so, but think about the experience.
Natural tendency of no matter what you do, when you're busy, you try to get through things.
And so the client delighter, if you think about it, David, how would you feel about a doctor if you go to the doctor's office and everything is, because they're so overwhelmed, and you get in the room and, nobody really talks to you. They just you could tell they're just going through the motions, and then you get into the little room and the doctor comes in, and the doctor basically washes their hands, asks you what's going on, checks a few things, then gives you a treatment or sends you for another test. But let's suppose that doctor came in and they were wearing cargo shorts, a T-shirt, and Crocs. How would you feel about that doctor?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't feel the same as I would with a doctor that was in, a doctor attire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a button-down shirt, slacks, or whatever, and a lab coat,
the white overcoat,
something like that. Yeah. They got a stethoscope, that kind of thing. And so, obviously, the visual piece is the first piece for you as a technician. The visual is the first thing that the customer interacts with on you. They see your truck pull up, and they believe a person who drives a clean truck is better than a person who drives a dirty truck, regardless of the technical skill, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so then we get out of the truck. Most of the time we parked in the street, facing the right way. So what that means is they only see us from like the chest up when we pull up. So then we get out of the truck and we walk around the front of the truck, and as soon as we turn that corner around the front of the truck, that's their full first look at us. Okay, and we know, we've said it many times on the podcast. They're judging you based
7
on
seconds.
However many seconds it takes, whatever.
Yeah.
They're judging you based on what you look like from that point. But look like doesn't just mean wearing a uniform with a shirt tucked in, the appropriate footwear. neatly groomed, not smelling bad. It's all those things, but it's also, are you holding your head up? Are your shoulders slumped? You know, physically, and I hate to say this because I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but physically, do you look like you're in decent shape?
Sure.
You
You look like you want to be there.
Yeah.
Well, I've had customers tell me, I've been on calls with technicians and ride-alongs, but I've been on calls myself. And I worked at a company where there was a couple of guys who were really, really out of shape. And I've gone into someone's house where one of those guys has been the only person that serviced their stuff for the last 4, 5, 6 years. And they ask me, is he okay? Did he have a heart attack or something? Or, man, I was so afraid he was going to have a heart attack while he was here. He's always breathing heavy and all this kind of stuff. So customers are thinking that, right or wrong, they're thinking that. So it's just like that doctor walks in the room. The first thing you're doing, if you've never seen the doctor before, you're judging them on their appearance, period. Then they open their mouth. You're judging them. And appearance is not only attire and grooming, but body language, facial expression, demeanor, those kind of things. And from our study of DISC, we know that that plays a big part. It helps us with that. But when they open their mouth, how do they speak? Do they look you in the eye? I mean, it's hard if you're only listening to do this, but so David, if the doctor came in and they looked the part and they didn't ask you any questions, they just started working on you. They said, okay, I'm going to get started. They just started working on you. They didn't ask any questions. They just started working on you. And then they go, okay, Mr. Grennel, here's, I'm really concerned about that spot on your head, and I think we know what to do, and they're just, I think we're going to do this and this, and we think that might work it out. What do you think?
Yeah, you're not very secure with that.
I wouldn't be.
You're not very.
I need to find another doctor.
We can relate this to everyday calls, and that's making the reason for the call priority for the customer. No matter if we're having a Zinsco panel, and we could be out there for a GFI and see a Zinsco panel, red, but gosh darn it, I want that GFI to be the first thing that customer sees on the proposal, because that's why she called us out here for. So we can relate that back to part of what you're saying,
Well, and it's more about how they communicate too, is if you're not looking the person in the eye, if you're not demonstrating confidence, then if you're not showing confidence, then why would I believe what you say? And that's the delight role.
Let me put a question back on you guys, is if the doctor came in in Crocs, a tie-dyed shirt, and said man and dude, but looked you in the eye and said, hey man, you got skin cancer, you need to get this shit taken care of, right? Would the attire really matter at that point?
It would. It wouldn't matter as much, because here's how it would matter. It would go down something like this. Yeah, I went to see this new doctor today, and he told me I got to go get checked for the spot on my head. And he seemed knowledgeable, but man, you should have seen what that dude was wearing. He was dressed like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
Yeah.
But it's like, sorry, Alex, do you know who that? Hold on, I got to check it. Do you know who Spicoli is?
150% Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
No, not you, David. I'm talking to Alex, our producer. Sorry, you didn't get to meet Alex.
Sorry, Alex.
So, Alex, you know who he is? What's one of his famous lines? He couldn't tell me, but he knows who Spicoli is. So I'll give you that, at least, Alex.
All right.
Mr. Spicoli, what are you doing here?
But hold on,
I'm going to learn
Alex.
about Cuba and scarf on some pizza, Mr. Hand.
Yeah.
You know who Spicoli is, but have you seen Fast Times at Ridgemont
Me?
High? No, Alex.
He says he's seen it. So, okay, Alex,
Okay.
good to go. All right.
One, like Goonies, he's
My-
seen
my-
it once.
But
My dad's a TV repairman. He has an awesome set of tools.
so here's David, you're exactly your point. I know where you're going with your point, and I think that in all cases, we all know somebody like that who is, whatever their craft or trade is, they're excellent at it, but they don't look excellent at it.
And I think that's very important to do both.
I think it's important to do both because I think the appearance has to lead.
Yes.
Because that easily gets you into the technical confidence. But if the appearance doesn't lead, then I'm going to allow you some room if you sound confident and you sound like you know. I'm going to allow you some room, but I'm not going to give you everything I would have given you. I wouldn't have given you all the leeway and grace I would have given you and benefit of the doubt I would have given you had you been more properly presented as someone in that craft or trade. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's like, well, let's go back to the actor. If I'm sitting and I'm a casting director and an actor comes in and wearing a business suit and they're playing a surfer in a movie that I'm, every character in my movie's around the beach. Okay. Maybe this guy, he came to the wrong casting call or something. Right. But if the actor walks in and he's wearing some reefs and some Billabong board shorts and a Hurley shirt, you know, and maybe he's got a few dreadlocks from unwashed hair and he smells like the ocean, I'm probably, okay, this guy's getting a lot more leeway than the other guy, right? Alex, am I right about that? Alex says yes, and he's a cinematographer, so he should know what he's talking about. So I think, David, all of us have been taught what? Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge somebody by the way they look. But that's not instinctive to people. Instinctive, you know, as prey, you're used to judging the danger of something by the way it looks.
That's how we all are. So you guys have all seen House, right?
Yeah.
The TV show House.
Yeah.
The doctor that's, you know, really incredible diagnostician.
But he's hooked on opiates and walks with a limp.
On pain pills,
and terrible bedside manner.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a really mean guy. And, you know, I loved that show. I think we all kind of like that show. He's kind of the anti-hero. He's the guy that, like, what you just said, we don't judge a book by its cover. You know, his work speaks for himself.
But only after someone's given him the grace to let that happen, and most people won't do that.
Exactly.
And that's the point I was making.
Yeah, exactly. It's the point I was trying to make too with the example with House is that, yeah, we all admire a guy like that because he's great at what he does, and that's all that should matter. But the reality is, it isn't all that matters.
It's not. And to be honest, we probably don't want to put up with the baggage and drama that goes with it.
And I'll go back to something Chris said years ago was working for it. If you going back to getting outside the van, you're parked on that side of the house. So, you know, there was a time when I didn't think the way that I think now, but now I want to be the best representative for the happy outlet that we could have, right? So that's fitness, that's security, that's making sure your personal stuff is okay, because you don't want any of that to come inside your work, right? I know it's hard to do, but that goes along with that. You had said to me the way that I present my options, why are you working so hard? Well, I relate that back. It's we can be like House, but look how much harder we would have to work.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Or we can wear the nice blue shirts, clean our van once a week, and that's already out of the way.
Yes.
Now we can focus more on customer service.
That's right. And you're just taking care of the fundamentals that here's the thing. Your work can't speak for itself until it's done. And you can't do it if your appearance doesn't speak for you first. Right. And that's the thing. Yep. That's what has to speak for you. And so that's why we harp on appearance so much. And that is the first stage of delighting a client. The other parts of that are and this is the thing, to delight a client, you have to exceed expectations, right? And we've talked about it on here. What does a client expect? A client expects all the bad things. They don't expect the good things. And so I relate it this way. A client wants friendly, courteous, on time, clean, doesn't stink, speaks well, eye contact, confidence, competence. That's what a customer wants. Fix it right the first time at a fair price. That's what a customer wants. Peace of mind. That's what a customer wants. But what does a customer expect? You know, and I don't go cut off jeans and a ripped shirt, smell, I don't go that far extreme. That's not. What a customer expects is not someone with their shirt tucked in. They expect someone to be wearing a logo.
T-shirt,
Yeah, they expect them to be wearing a logo, probably jeans, probably, some
All cap.
Some sort of hat, maybe backwards, some sort of facial hair, probably smells like, doesn't smell
Cigarette.
clean, whether it's just because they've been working or what. There's going to be some dirt because they've been working, not clean hands. Those are the things they expect. They expect you to be a little late. They expect it to be more, cost a lot more. They expect that there could be a problem in the future. They expect these things. And
they also though expect, that you're gonna. We were saying it in our earlier podcast when on the lead up to this, and they expect you to be at least nice.
yes.
I think that's important to remember too, because just because you're good with clients, they expect that.
I don't know. I don't think they expect you to be nice. I think they want you to be nice.
Yeah.
I disagree, because I don't think that any client just wants you to be nice.
No, they do. I think what they expect is you to be.
Well, they're not expecting you to be
personable.
They're not expecting
that.
Fair enough, but they're not expecting you to be rude.
No, they're not expecting you to be rude, but that's what I'm saying. What they want is someone that is demonstratively nice, not someone who is just there to do the work and is, they're okay. They weren't rude. I would rather them. I think they want to describe you as friendly and courteous. What they don't want is to describe you as not rude. I don't want them to describe me as, well, he wasn't rude. You know what I mean? So, but also the last point I want to make here is, and this is not the only way you delight clients, but this is what gets you in the door. This is what earns you the right to go forward, is you have to understand your own personality. You've got to learn to recognize the basic fundamentals of other people's personalities. Because when you do that, a switch flips. And now it's easier for you. David, again, we go back to, why would you want to work so hard? What if I went in and said, well, this is who I am and I'm not changing for anybody and I'm not worried about somebody else's profile? Well, you're just going to work harder. You're just going to work harder.
Why would anybody want to do that?
And so you learn profile, you learn to recognize it, and more importantly, you learn to adapt to it immediately upon recognizing it. And you do that through asking the right questions and just noticing things and being observant. And all this stuff we're talking about happens in the first 15 minutes.
So that's a good segue, because I'm listening to you guys talk and I'm thinking too, this is all the stuff beforehand.
Yeah, this is all technical.
But being a client delighter is also what happens after you leave. A year later, right? They haven't seen you. We have a quote on the wall in our training room, and it's Maya Angelou. People won't remember what you did for them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. That comes after you're long gone. And, that's all the things that you did do in those first 15 minutes. It's the respect for them and their house. It's you treated them like a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to remember. You go in and fix an outlet and you weren't rude, right? And you fix the outlet. Nobody's going to be sitting around dinner with their friends or family a year later going, oh yeah, and he fixed my outlet. No, what they're going to be saying a year later is wow. And we wouldn't believe how, and he listened to my story and blah, blah, and this and that.
And so
That's what they're going to remember.
realistically, they remember it later, but you're building that memory as you go on this call. And so there's all these other ways we delight clients. You know, we make sure we take care of their house the whole time. We make sure we keep them, we stay communicating with them the whole time we're in the home. We educate them, and we're providing additional value other than just the work as we're there. So all those things go into being a client delighter. And the technical
sorry
work.
to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
There is something that we miss being the client delighter, I think, and that is set for success. I know that this starts beforehand. I know for being prepared. Yeah, prepared. I know from my experience, the more prepared I am, and the more that I can have in my conversations confirming things, the more that it's opened up, the more that I'm able to help serve them.
No, that's good. So preparation is important.
And again, preparation is a part of being a client delighter.
I agree. And I go back to what I said at the beginning is the steps of press play, those in-home sales and service principles are all about being a client delighter. The way we deliver our stuff, not only who delivers it, but the way it's delivered is the customer experience. And that has to be a delight. It has to be, and here's the way I look at it. Yeah, we had to have an electrician out the other day. Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. That sounds horrible. Did they mess up something? Or this, that? Oh no, man, we had the happy outlet. They were great. David came out. You know, we talked about, this, whatever. Talked about, I know so much more about my electrical system and why I need to do things and all that. And we got great work done. And we just feel so much better about, the house, the electrical stuff in the house now because we didn't know anything before. But David was awesome. He took the time to explain everything to a way we can understand it. And he was just generally a nice guy. That's when you're a client delighter when they say things like that.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
That's the type of reviews people leave.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing about talking about how you make people feel, the proof's in the pudding. Customers are telling you what they want, right? You just, all you got to do is go read through your 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you exactly what it is. And time again, it's exactly what you
and
just said.
And what's funny is, David, you talked about preparation, and Jesse, you're talking about your future. So again, start to finish, press play. It's about being client delighters. And so reviews are the way to know that, right? For sure. So we're out of time. We'll pick up with Problem Solver on the next episode. So if you're listening, and you know you are, and if you're like me, and I know I am, you're going to want to be there, right?
I know I will.
See you later, guys.
Okay, well, we're not done yet, David. We'll come back to you on that in a second. So if you want to know more, Chris Elmore, 254-733-7109, or Elmore at servextra.com. That is SERVEXTRA.com. Jesse, you want to give out your email address so they want to contact you?
Email address is jesse.o@thehappyoutlet.com. It's jesse.o@thehappyoutlet.com.
All right, and go to our website, www.servextra.com. Check out other episodes of Windshield Time. There's 137.17 episodes up there now. You can search through and find the topics you want. Like and share the podcast, leave a review, send us suggestions for topics that you would like us to cover. Maybe a guest. Maybe you want to be a guest. Let us know. Also, check out our blogs and other free stuff that we have there. It's really educational. It's awesome. And check out our classes are coming up at the end of September here in beautiful Buda, Texas, not Buda. We'll be doing our sales and our technician workshops during that third week of September. So get signed up for that. It's only 6 weeks away. So with all that said, Jesse, I'm going to ask you this. What do we do here at Service Excellence?
Turn learning into earning.
Very nice. So thank you both for being here, David. Really appreciate you sharing. And we hope to have you again soon sometimes.
Sounds
Sometime,
good.
not sometimes. All right, everybody. Take care.